today's review, I'm going to be taking a look at the first volume of Zygon Century, Infiltration. This box set is available to order now on the Big Finish website on both physical CD and digital download. Now, when this set was initially announced, I know a few people were quite sceptical because when Big Finish do something a little bit different, there is instantly the argument of why are they even focusing a box set on that. Later this year, we have a Crinoid spin-off. And I'll be completely honest, I'm really excited about the concept of this series. I feel like it is the exact type of thing that extended Doctor Who media should be doing, delving into the world of Doctor Who without the Doctor present, especially the monsters and villains. So without further ado, let's get into the series. Jonathan Barnes opens the set with 1901, The Unknown Mirror. Now, I felt really at home within this story's environment. Zygon Lightfoot is set within the late 1800s, some of the stories on the cusp of the 20th century, Edwardian England, so this episode follows a rather similar style to my Comfort spin-off. It's an occult Sherlock John Watson inspired story where Dr. Herbert Scott and his Catholic priest friend Felix have an interest in the otherworldly. Meanwhile, Thomas Brown looks after Edith Walker, who is having terrible dreams of another mysterious plane altogether. Creatures with suckers and bizarre baby faces. I wonder who that could be. So she takes it upon herself to write to this investigative duo and eventually travel to central London on search for answers. I think my favourite aspect of this story is that underlying Zygon-themed thread, the possibility of some force using Edith as a mouthpiece speaking through her, but we're not entirely sure what the motive is. It's very ominous because as a listener we have the advantage of knowing about the Zygons, meanwhile the investigative duo are tapping into something much bigger and more dangerous than they realise, which really adds to this story's stakes. Peeling back the layers to have a human-looking person actually be a Zygon, and then coaxing that other side out of this person is a rather scary idea. Now, I've been a Doctor Who fan now since 2006. I've been listening to Big Finish with Doctor Who for quite a while, and I honestly think that maybe sometimes I'm getting a little bit tired of the Doctor Who adventure format. And I think that is occasionally why I tend to focus more so on the spin-off genre. There is more storytelling variety, it feels fresh and less predictable with the Doctor not present. And this is the type of content that I love Big Finish digging into. I like the slower pace of this episode, exploring its main characters. It's quite bleak and thrilling, but it may not be for everyone. It's certainly more a slow-burning story. I think it's also quite exciting not having an obvious lead character. Mr. Scott takes prominence within the narrative, but it's clear that he isn't an all-good person, so you're not really meant to relate to him. It's more of a period drama. He's flawed, but he also moves in rather powerful circles. Again, there's a bleakness to this story, perhaps a little bit more so than usual Doctor Who. And I think that this is a story style which you will either click with or not. Production-wise, there is a little bit of jumping about between characters and locations, so I think that sometimes this did confuse me a bit, because some of the scene jumps weren't as clear as usual, and some of the scenes are incredibly fleeting. The ending of the story opens up more questions, setting up the rest of the box set, introducing the Zygons' plan, and I'm intrigued to see where this series goes, but at this point, it's not revealing much. Stuart Pringle and Lauren Mooney pen the second episode of the set, being 1935, The Miracle of Pendor Cove. Now, this story comes with a warning, as the story contains depictions of domestic violence, which is strongly advised as not suitable for younger listeners. So the story is set in Cornwall, inspired by the Mermaid of Zena, and a mysterious woman appears on the coast with no memory of where she has came from. She is taken in by local Freddie, a man who has recently lost his wife, and Freddie is quite taken by this woman, calling her Vavoverin. But little does he know that this woman is in fact a Zygon infiltrating society. Now, I will 100% hold my hands up and say the reason why I'm listening to this box set is because of Stuart Pringle and Lauren Mooney. Their instalment alone within this box set was enough to hook me in. I went into this box set having experienced a number of their Torchwood stories, and I know how great they are. This tale carries with it an emotional impact. It takes talent and skill to pull an episode like this off, and Big Finish continue to be incredibly lucky to have Lauren and Stuart contributing to the Whoniverse. They perfectly capture the 30s Cornish remote community, the role religion and teachings play within that society, and the strain that this can have. It feels very cut off from the rest of the world, and again, it's another historical story, as the title suggests. The actor behind Freddy does an incredible job displaying a great range from caring to the complete opposite. The relationship that he has with his father also feels very real, despite him appearing within the story in quite a limited amount of scenes. He has an influence which sways the entire narrative. From the glimpses into his church services, that vile anger as he interacts with Freddy, and the similarities between them, and how experiences of the past have informed the Freddy of the present. Exploring the themes that we see within this story in depth is something that usually Doctor Who doesn't do, so instantly I felt hooked by this one. The way that Stuart and Lauren have taken the concept of the Zygon and delivered something utterly brand new, it makes the listener question the role that the Zygons play within the series as they interact with that darker element of human society. This story does not feel like Doctor Who. It has the more adult themes and daring nature of the likes of the Torchwood main range, which personally I think works really, really well, but I think this will also catch a few listeners off guard, especially if they haven't experienced this writing duo's previous works within Torchwood. But again, it's a spin-off, so I think delving into worlds like this is the right direction to go in, that darker side of Doctor Who. But just be warned, if you like the rose-tinted world of Doctor Who, where everything seems a bit more happy and jolly, this one is very, very different and deals with very real human problems and the difficulties within relationships and emotional manipulation. Charlie Russell absolutely steals the show as Vivovran, the Zygon. You absolutely feel for this character, but again, there is that range in performance, determination to be accepted within this society as they find themselves basically locked within a house for the vast majority of the episode, and it tackles the character traits which make the Zygons a strong, influential, scary invader to planet Earth, but completely flips that on its head in a brutal, emotional way. And again, this story works so well because the Doctor is absent. I'm not convinced a Doctor Who narrative could pull something like this off as effectively, so as a result, it is the highlight of the box set without a doubt. So we now jump to the third and final episode of the set, 1957, Double Agent, seeing the Zygon Island come under the attention of MI5 and their agents. Agent Caldwell is sent to investigate, and it is here that we also find the second Doctor already on an island with a mission of his own, and Harriet, who's been trapped on the island after an accident with her boat. Timeline-wise, it's quite an interesting one, as the second Doctor is from Season 6B, so the agent theme on a mission fits really well with this particular incarnation, especially when you pair him with a character like Caldwell, who's a very trigger-happy MI5 agent. So this story does venture to the island, which has been set up loosely in the previous episodes. That is where the Zygons are living, but we don't really know what they are doing. And the Zygon representation within this story is a little bit more prominent than the previous two episodes, which mainly only have one Zygon present. This has more Zygons. So it's the most Doctor Who-ish of the set so far, and the most similar to Terror of the Zygons as an episode as well. We have the return of the Scarison, body duplication, and we meet the leader of the Zygons being Crozon, who I presume is behind the grand plan of the series. And yet somehow, as a listener, we don't really know what the Zygons' grand plan is, but I think we can presume a few bits. This volume, I think, shows the potential of the storytelling with the Zygons as a species alone, and I've really enjoyed so far going on that journey. There is a cliffhanger at the end of this box set, but at the same time, the scope of what is next within Volume 2, I think, is so broad that we don't really know what to expect next. And a contributing factor to that is certainly that the main continuing antagonist of the series is the Zygons, and they actually lurk behind the scenes for most of the set. We don't have a lead protagonist that ties all of the episodes together due to them being within separate time periods. So I don't quite know how Volume 2 is going to approach that. Are we going to feature just one setting only, so maybe introduce a reoccurring other character? Lots of questions, certainly. This box set is a lot of setup. Michael Troughton is great as his father's Doctor, lots of nice humorous moments. He certainly captures the mannerisms on audio well, and having a higher intelligence than humans around him allows the Doctor to introduce some new potential threats to the series that I imagine future volumes will hopefully explore. Although I must admit, experiencing a story like this with the Doctor present, tone-wise, does feel very unusual straight after the contents of the previous episode. I certainly think that this third story tones down the danger a bit compared to the previous other 2 episodes. Because the Doctor is present, maybe it feels a bit more PG. I suppose it's a bit like the Doctor appearing in Torchwood, it's just something that feels a bit wrong. And moving forward into Volume 2, I do hope that maybe this is the only appearance of the Doctor within the series, as the previous episodes have sold really well the potential of a Doctor-less spin-off focusing solely on the Zygons. But this story does dabble in that who can you trust body duplication theme, which I did quite like. It really pins the main characters against each other, but also there's quite a number of twists and turns which I did enjoy experiencing. But due to the contents of the previous stories, maybe this episode does feel pretty standard, certainly compared to The Miracle of Pendle Cove. Perhaps those who feel a little bit more comfortable with the Doctor Who format will feel more at home with this one. I did enjoy hearing some of the familiar concepts of Terror of the Zygons returning. Letting the listener explore the island also allows us to better imagine the threat of the series overall. I do feel a little bit confused though, timeline-wise, especially from the duplication technology perspective, as within the previous story, it did appear that the duplication tech that the Zygons had was more superior than what we got to see within episode 3, despite the previous episode being set a number of years in the past. The interaction between Caldwell, Harriet and Professor Venix did feel very natural. I think the dialogue definitely leapt off the page, and I appreciate how each of the stories celebrates a different genre of media, this one being the James Bond spy thriller. So there we go, that is my review of Zygon Century Volume 1 Infiltration. Without a doubt, the highlight of the box set for me is Laura Mooney and Stuart Pringle's episode. I absolutely loved it. I loved how daring and emotional and hard-hitting the episode is. Really excellently written. I felt for the characters. But also, this box set has shown to me, I think, the potential of telling a spin-off about the Zygons. I hope that we get to see some of those elements experienced within episode 2 taken a little bit further. How else can we see the Zygons in experimental settings? So I definitely have a lot of hope for this series in the future, and I'm excited to see where it goes next. But predicting where it goes next is also quite difficult because there is lots of unanswered questions. So be prepared if you do listen to this one for lots of setup, lots of potential for what's to come in the future, but not really episodes that are directly tied together. There's little clues throughout. So thank you very much for watching this review. I really hope you have enjoyed it. Have a nice day. I shall see you all next time.